What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are jumping back in with some Destiny 2 updates. So in this one we get more word from Bungie regarding their outlook on the future of Destiny 2. This is ahead of the roadmap that Bungie have promised we'll get, leading up to Renegades and beyond. Hopefully we'll get more info on that soon, but we'll discuss what they've said today. Otherwise, we'll touch on some of the new content dropping this week, another update from Bungie regarding the Epic Raid, plus a shorter term breakdown of some of the content that we'll see roll out over the next few weeks, including the release of some new weapons, and we have a bunch of other things to round up in the video. So, as always, I hope you guys enjoy this one, but now let's get into it. Firstly, a couple of quick updates related to content this reset. To mention the Deluge modifier that we have in the portal right now, of course in the first few weeks after Edge of Fate we were seeing some of these kind of surge bonuses for portal activities, but it did go quiet for a while as I believe some of them were causing bugs with the game. Surprise, surprise. But this week we get Deluge, which spawns wells that increase grenade, melee, or super energy after defeating combatants in portal activities. And when they drop, they look something like this. I swear we've seen these before in an event activity or something like that. You'll have to remind me which one it was. But when you pick them up, they do give incredibly short cooldowns for these abilities. They don't drop very frequently. I've seen them either once or twice perhaps in a solo ops activity. So it's a minor boost, but fairly effective when it does drop. Otherwise this week, as players have discussed, Zavala is selling some mint retrogrades, and there are things like Rewind Rounds Bait and Switch, Hatchling Chain Reaction, Beacon Rounds Master of Arms, and a couple of others. Of course, the god roll a lot of folks will go after are things like Rewind Rounds Bait and Switch. That's what I kept on my tier 5 mint retrograde, but essentially if you don't sign into D2 for any other reason this week, if you need a mint retrograde, you can pretty much get the god roll from Zavala, so it's definitely worth keeping in mind. More D2 discussion though, ahead of DMG's roadmap comments, which we'll mention in a moment. The next real content drop for Destiny 2 will be on October 7th. We'll see the return of the Arms Week event initially. Bungie have said it will focus on shotguns, and as we've seen with a bunch of other season weapons, that means an update to the Trachinus. I still don't know how to say that name correctly, but this weapon will get new hollow foil skin. Otherwise, I think the roles stay the same, so how interesting that will be, I'm not really sure. October 7th will also see a sandbox update and the release of the exotic mission that gives us the Wolf's Bane axe. Very interested to actually check the axe out, where light attacks have a chance to spawn seeking Quicksilver nanites that heal the wielder upon attaching. Plus they'll charge the blade, and when it's fully charged, we can overclock the attached nanites, which enhances the blade's offensive capabilities. Plus fully charged heavy attacks will create a flaming Quicksilver Swarmnado. With it being an exotic mission weapon though, as we've discussed, there'll be various intrinsic upgrades to get, and then refits which will include attrition orbs, relentless strikes, burning ambition, and subroutine recursion, where the nanites grant more health the greater your stacks of nano assault, and taking damage while it's active has the chance to generate nanites nearby. So there'll be a couple of interesting catalyst options on it. Exactly how strong that will feel in the sandbox though, we'll just have to wait and see. More Destiny updates in just a moment, but before we get into it, over the last few months I've made some big improvements to my health, and one of those included ditching vaping. It isn't easy to do, but today's sponsor made a big difference, and we're talking about Fume. Fume is all about creating more positive habits and alternatives to things like vaping, which of course have a negative impact on our health. The Fume pulls air through a core, and that creates a mild flavor. There's no combustion, which is why Fume have the support of US doctors, because it's non-toxic. It also isn't an electronic device or vape, and there's no nicotine, so it isn't addictive. There are also a bunch of flavors, my favorites being orange vanilla and crisp mint, and importantly you can fidget with it, which is a big part of the habit, and that's why more than 500,000 customers have been helped to replace their habits and improve their well-being. So if you think this might help you out, for a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using code Houndish, you'll get a free Fume topper, which is an awesome accessory to level up your experience. So head to tryfume.com/Houndish or scan the QR code on screen to get yours today. It's definitely worth checking out. All of the details are in the description box, and thanks to Fume for sponsoring the video. Back to D2 content though, the next thing we'll get after October 7th update will be Festival of the Lost, which will begin on October 21st and run up until the first week in November. Festival this year looks pretty interesting in terms of weapon rewards though. There'll be a new SMG called Gunburn, and they get some pretty interesting sort of spooky skins I guess, almost a slimy green skin. Plus Bungie will update the shotgun, the Arcane Embrace, and there'll be a bow called Hushed Whisper. If you want to check out weapon rolls on those, I do have a video which I'll link below. Overall I think they look pretty cool. So that's kind of a short-term idea of what we'll get over the next month. More updates from Bungie here. Players have been asking about strongholds and when they're going to be fixed. Bungie say strongholds will be reverted in a future patch, but obviously we didn't get it in this week's update, so It will clearly take a little while longer. Otherwise, in relation to the Epic Raid dropping this weekend, Bungie say the Desert Perpetual Epic Raid contest mode opens on Saturday at 10 AM Pacific time, that's 6 PM in the UK, and Guardians seeking to take on the challenge are recommended to have a minimum of 300 power, as less power will deal reduced damage against the epic difficulty foes found in the raid. So if you do plan on jumping in, 300 power is the target. I would also assume 300 power will essentially be the maximum effective power, or thereabouts. That isn't confirmed just yet, but it's worth keeping in mind. In terms of reward content for this though, as we discussed in a video yesterday, very quick rundown here, but there's the update for the armor set, where the 2-piece perk will reload stowed special weapons from reserves when picking up ammo, and the 4-piece allows, after dealing damage with your super, health and shield to regenerate over time while you're in motion, and additional super damage refreshes the effect. And it sounds like a decent bonus. Otherwise, there's the Whirling Ovation Catalyst, where fully charged shots will over-penetrate weaker combatants and cause a delayed solar detonation with a brief scorching field, which will certainly improve the weapon. Otherwise, there's a new support frame auto rifle we'll be able to earn in here called Cusp Sempiternal, which is a void support frame, so it's nice to get another support frame. Otherwise, there is the Starscape Null, a solar lightweight frame shotgun, and we get the Ever-Present, which is a Strand rapid-fire frame grenade launcher. On top of that, a couple of emblems, Fractured Timeline, which is to complete the contest version of the Epic Raid, and After the Unknown, which is to simply clear the Epic Raid at any point in time. So a few new rewards there to pick up potentially, but let us know down below, do you plan to dive into this Epic Raid on the weekend? It will certainly be interesting to see precisely how epic or difficult it turns out to be, and hopefully less cheaters involved this time, but time will tell. Another update here, given the drama and frustration, which is legit frustration, in the community over recent weeks. There was a lot of memery around DMG's comment to build momentum a few weeks back, and since that time, the game has continued to struggle, and Bungie have seemingly struggled to sort of improve the power grind and other components that are frustrating players. So DMG adds to this, many thanks to those who understand my momentum post from before the stream. It came from a place of wanting to do good by this community, player base and team, but it's a bummer that another word or phrase will be used to mock me directly and personally, but I'd rather that than folks hounding other team members directly who are trying to solve the problems. Speaking for myself, I truly hope we shift and build momentum. I hope we kick ass and put out awesome content. I understand that words don't mean much when folks desire action, and he openly says here, we're listening needs to be we're doing and we've done, and I totally agree with that. But finishes by saying things won't be fixed overnight or with a roadmap or single change. We've got a lot of work to do, and hopefully update after update, things get to where we want them to be. And beyond that, I hope for a day where we once again celebrate new stuff, the universe, loot, the community, and more. Not just talking about a hotfix to get us closer to the game feeling fun again. So very candid, actually, right there. And I think there are a couple of important recognitions. As he says, we're listening needs to be a we're doing and we've done. And it directly references getting the game to a place where it feels more fun again. And it is nice to see Bungie recognize that. I know there's a lot of frustration at Bungie at the moment, and I totally understand that, as you guys will have known. Over the last few months, I've been pretty open about my feelings around the game. But at the same time, we should recognise that while there are many mistakes which I'm sure can be attributed to particular individuals at Bungie and members of development teams, there's also a much wider systemic problem with Bungie, and especially Bungie's leadership, which have actually led the game to the place that it is at right now. So I think it's important to recognise that most of the individuals actually building Destiny 2 do want the game to be fun, and we've seen all the reports from inside of Bungie about developers trying to push the game in certain directions that they think are ultimately more player-friendly and actually make for a more enjoyable game, with that often struggling with pushback from the folks actually leading the company. So it is worth keeping in mind, especially when you criticize individuals. Ultimately, the responsibility for the state of things right now at Bungie in general, it is a leadership problem, and it comes from the top down, right? So it's important to recognize that, but it also doesn't devalue any criticism you have for the actual game. I just hope that some of the words that DMG has spoken there can actually translate into meaningful progress. And again, my overall feedback is that while they can't fix the portal overnight, they can't fix a lot of the things they've undone about Destiny very quickly, there are other avenues to speed up progression and take bigger swings, which is the term that I keep using to generally improve the game in its current state, because we're going to move through multiple phases now of actually improving Destiny 2, if indeed we ever get there, right? The first one of those things should be the live game and making it fun right now, where there are definitely levers that Bungie can pull to do that, right? Whether it's speeding up power progression in a more meaningful way than they have so far, giving players more of that high tier loot that ultimately is what all of the chase really is about in terms of reward progression right now. while also putting as much effort into the future of the franchise and the game as we go through Renegades and beyond. So that's my 2 cents, but some interesting words from DMG there, and you'll have to give me your thoughts below. For today, that is what we have to speak about. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and if you have, a rating really helps me out on the channel. Additionally, get subscribed, as around half of my viewers are not actual subscribers yet. That would make a massive difference as we slowly, potentially climb towards 600k. I appreciate you all as always though. I'll catch as many comments below as I can. Once again, thanks to today's sponsor, Fume. If you have any habits that you'd prefer to change for something better, then it's totally worth checking out. Their products are pretty cool. Plus you can use code Houndish or the QR code on screen. So all of the details for that are in the description box. Otherwise though, cheers for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.